Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience presented by Underdog. Code Mayo. Underdog right now, get your deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We'll be filling out an entry a little bit later on in the show. If you're looking to jump around to the time codes, bad news for you if you're tuning in live. But if you're tuning in after the fact, jump around. And if you're here after the fact, in the comment section after you subscribe to Mayo Media Network, give me your favorite $6,000 play on DraftKings this week to get into a draw for a free PXG Black Ops driver given away the day after the Open Championship ends. Tambo, how you feeling about the slate for the Rocket Classic?
Yeah, they dropped a mortgage on us, man. Can't bet the house anymore. But I'm excited for this one. I like this event every year. It was the final of the Fantasy Golf World Championship last year. So I was down there, did not have a good result in that, but had a sweat on Sunday and needed Cam Young. And if everyone remembers, he snapped his driver after a bad drive, and then Bhatia missed like a 4-foot putt at the end. So had a good run here last year, and excited to get back to this one.
So you were a boots on the ground. Tell us about the course.
I like it. Yeah, it's a nice little course. I'm not a course preview guy, as you probably know by now. So I'm not really the expert on that. It just felt like you could just bomb and gouge, put it out there. Exciting stuff, like watching these guys. I feel like we got a little bit better field this year, though. So that makes it interesting. And then the way the pricing sets up, I think, is also good as well for DraftKings when we get to it later.
What do you think that the common build is going to be this week? Do you think that people will gravitate towards one of the top three guys?
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to use one of the top three guys. We talked a little bit about it yesterday, but even this is the event that you can actually avoid that in some lineups, or you can double down on that and be able to play like Morikawa Cantlay when everyone's like, oh, I'm just going to skip the guys at the top. You can do both in your portfolio if you separate it out. But I think we saw years here, Pat, where it was like Bryson and Finau were like the only two guys above 9K that even made the cut one year. So it's like I'm not saying go out and play for the 45K optimal, but I'm saying you can definitely these prices are just these prices. Morikawa, by the way, told you this last week, but has not been needed for 4 months still, and it was like a 45th last week or something.
Do you think that people end up going towards that then? They finally start fading Morikawa, and then this is the week that it happens?
I don't know. People seeing the caddy situation, and I saw that mentioned yesterday, and he's 10-9 and hasn't really done anything lately. But honestly, the way the pricing sets up, it sort of forces those builds no matter what, and projections are still on Morikawa. Therefore, your optimizer will give you that if you're building it out that way. So I do still think people end up on them. They probably play Keegan less, to be honest, just because there's no way Keegan can come back and win again after winning a signature event last week the way he did.
Yeah, he doesn't need to win. He just needs to play better than those guys at the top.
Yes, that's the key component. Thank you. It's like we've been doing this a while, Pat. That's a great point that you've made, and we've talked about this ad nauseum for some of the other stuff with Scotty Scheffler and his price point and different stuff. But he's not here. Nobody's here, but also nobody tops 11K. And there is a ton of options, especially even lower owned options in that 7K and bottom 7K range. So there's a lot of ways to go this week. Do
you think this is going to end up being a lazy week where the chalk just gets amplified more than ever?
Interesting. Yeah, that I love that we talk about that. And some weeks I feel it more than others. I do think at the top, like I said, the laziness this week, I think, is more with roster construction than just condensed ownership, because we do know it within the pockets. Yes, Cantlay. Yes, Ben Griffin, et cetera, et cetera. We can go down the board and pick our guy, Davis Thompson, for sure. But there's enough. That's what I said earlier, but the field is like kind of strong enough, but it's also strong enough, Pat, with quote unquote your guys, and not necessarily yours. I mean, you'll definitely have your guys. You got your boy toy Roy down there. You got all kinds of options you can make up later, but Rico Hoey, all them. But everyone has their own guys in this field. So I feel like it's going to be a lot of 7 to 10% ownership on guys down low. And that's still a ton of ways to get different with the popularity of the certain plays, 8,100, Davis Thompson and above.
All right. Well, let's jump into it and talk about the weather for this event. It's a lot of people who are in Detroit who watch the show are messaging me. It's like, it's so hot here. Yes, it's hot. It's going to be mid 80s to low 90s most of the week when we take a look at it. But is that all that dissimilar from a lot of the tournaments that these guys are going to be playing over the next few months?
Yeah, agreed. I thought you were going to bust out a Trump there. A lot of people are saying.
Many people are saying.
Yeah, I don't know. Like even when I look at it, I know you got the weather pulled up just to look at it there. What are you seeing? Like 80 to 85, 90? It feels like 90 or sort of. I know it's been super hot. I guess when Friday hits, we're looking at even hotter temperatures. Sure, like upwards of feels like 100. But I think these guys are quite used to that, and I also think there's enough. It looks like there's some rain mixed in. I know yesterday people over there were saying that there was rain that came down quickly, a storm, all that. And I saw Ron Kloss post about them because there's a renovation coming up at this course. They're wanting to, they're okay with letting it just bake out and whatever happens, because who cares? We're renovating everything anyway in August or whatever their plan is. So I get that, but I just don't know if that's going to be able to tame these guys enough. And the way the course sets up, like I said, just put it out there, make things happen. The rough doesn't really play as big of a factor. The greens can only get so quick. So we'll have to wait and see.
It's interesting. Normally around the green at this tournament is super easy. And I'm just trying to think if it gets baked out, is that going to change it at all? Or the green's going to be receptive enough? Because I do think that if you can find an elite driver that you can match up with putting, and no one's going to do what Bryson did in 2021, where he led the field in driving and putting. I think he was the first guy ever to do that in the strokes gained era, but some sort of composite of that. Maybe you don't drive it as well, putt as well. You just do both things really well and do enough around the green with your irons to make it happen. It does feel like every skill set is in play for this course. And I only say that because generally speaking, when you take a look at the names at the top, you're not getting the elite bomb and gouge guys here. The players at the top are more accuracy leaning. You have Cantlay, who's just kind of been all over the place, but you're not getting the elite bombers at this course. Yeah, you have a Potgieter, or you have Cam Young, but those guys just simply aren't elite players.
Man, the Cam Young hate just still continues. The guy's trying, Pat. He's out there trying. We gotta see it soon. If Fleetwood still couldn't get off get over the hump there. So now it's down to Cam Young. We're trying to see him do something as well. But this would be the spot, you'd think, and he was close last year if he just didn't smash that driver late in the tournament in round 4.
Did you have him on that World Championship team?
My World Championship team was dead, and that's the problem with the Fantasy Golf World Championship, where this year they did add a showdown contest for Sunday, because people literally, there's no other live final where you can be dead on arrival. Like, people get to the tournament on Thursday night or Friday, and they know they're not going to have a 6-6 while others do, so they're dead. So this year they added a round 4 showdown component where there's more money on the line, but I did not have him on that team. I had him on, I was leading the main $25 for $200K basically till he snapped his driver. And then I ended up finishing 3rd or 4th for like 20, 30K or something. So that was kind of the downfall there. Me and another buddy that was doing well in the live final needed him, and he went Cam Young and snapped his driver on us.
Seeing essentially no wind, sunny skies on Thursday. Thursday looks like a great day to play golf. And then on Friday, there is a massive wind gust that's expected to come in. And the moment that stops, there is expected to be rain in the forecast. Not a lot of rain, like rain that you can play through. So it might dry it up a little bit. The winds go down 10 miles per hour or so, like 5 to 7 consistent. The gusts go down 10 to 15 in terms of how that's going to gust up. Because in the morning right now, and when I did this late or Tuesday afternoon, it was sort of the opposite, where the PM had all of the wind and the AM on Friday was pretty good. And now it seems like everything has just moved up in schedule a little bit. Now it looks like the AM might get hit. And if this does hold true, it does leak into the afternoon a little bit as well, because I'm still seeing 26 mile per hour wind gusts at 1 p.m., 2 p.m. when the AM PM wave would be starting their second rounds. Is there anything that you can make of this? Because it'll feel like 100 degrees when they're out there.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. And also it can change on us again, because I saw what you saw originally, same thing. And it was like, I was even thinking about it, because if there wasn't going to be that rain, and if it was going to, and they were willing to bake it out, like Jack says, shout out to Jack Humphrey in the chat, they're ripping this course up, like we mentioned, like that's what they're doing. I didn't expect them to be able to do much with that, but I was saying if it's going to be 100 degrees on Friday afternoon, or feel like it, and they're going to let that happen, and there's no rain, and there's that wind, maybe there could be something there. But now, like you said, it's moved up completely, and it's basically 8 to 2 o'clock that you're seeing these wind gusts. So it's really tough to gauge, Pat, when it comes to that. Obviously, there's some stuff with the mindset factor of like going out and having to post a number versus needing to hit a number to make the cut. Some of the younger guys or newer players and stuff, but it's really tough to gauge from a weather angle this early on with what we see and how it's moved on us.
Would you blindly wave stack, or do you think it's unnecessary?
No, I don't think it's necessary right now.
Okay. Bets for the Rocket Classic. You can get your odds up at Cool Bet right now. I'm also hosting a PME poker tournament over there for the Cool Bet Open. Do you still play poker?
I don't, but I saw Estonia. We talked about, remember last week with the Borat stuff, and then I saw Hustle Rama posted it, and you said get in now because I'm going to have something similar coming up. So yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, so if you're in Canada outside of Ontario, there's going to be a PME exclusive qualifier. I believe 2 people get through. I think it's going to be the second week of July, some like Thursday night or something like that. I'll have more details on Monday when everything gets finalized about my specific qualifier. I think the top 2 from mine make it to the final qualifier, and the winner of the qualifier gets themselves a free trip to Eastern Europe. And like, you get put up. Paul went to Costa Rica with them last year. It's a great experience, and you get to play for a bunch of money. I don't see, if you enjoy poker at all, I don't see why you wouldn't do that. Hit the description, find out how you can get on to Cool Bet and go figure that out. Here's what I got for the bets this week. I got Wyndham Clark at 40-1, Minwoo and Davis Thompson both at 50-1. I think the Minwoo number may have actually grown to like 55 at this point, but Clark and Thompson are now below those numbers. There is a boost on Cool Bet under the PME tab that will get you Davis Thompson back up to 45 from 40 if you're looking for it. But he was one of my first clicks this week, and that number was just kind of hanging out there in most spots, but that's been beat down. 2 bombs, Woodland and Valimaki, 100 and 160, both with 8 places, and I went with some first-round leaders. Keith Mitchell hasn't been first-round leader in about 3 weeks, so let's go back to him. 55-1. Lee Hodges, 75-1. Cam Champ, 90-1. And Will Gordon, 170-1 with 5 places, the 4 first-round leader bets. I bet Guido over in Italy as well for the Italian Open. He's 80-1, Tambo. And I do have a 30% boost to waste on one more outright if I really want to. And the guys that I have circled right now, Jagger and Hodges would probably be the 2 that I'm just lingering around. Although in the back of my mind, I said I was going to bet Thorbjornsson at this event. I just haven't been able to pull the trigger on that. So those 3, do you have any thoughts on those 3?
I'm going to be biased because I always love Jaeger bombs, but I like them all, actually. I like Lee Hodges here. We'll talk about him later. I think he fits a lot of lineups well. And then I think I can never say say the name Thor. I just call him, or Thorb. But same when I say Olason's name. But you're talking about Michael coming off. I think it was like a slight injury, but Ron Kloss posted that it was all good and looks okay. So I actually like him this week as well at 7,200 when I don't know if as many people are thinking about him.
So click on just hit the description, sub to the free newsletter. Whatever the final bet is going to be a little bit later on tonight, I'll have that posted on X as well. I still got to make up my mind on that, but that's where I'm at. You like the shirt, by the way? I didn't give you much
help there, but as long as it's not Morikawa, that would be my, you've been trying to make that one work and it's just not happening.
Well, you see, I've been trying to make it work. I bet the guy once. I bet him last week.
We talked about him 2 different weeks in a row almost that you were trying to make this guy happen.
Yeah, that's not true. I bet him last week. It was the first time all year I bet him.
Yes, but he was the same question you just asked me the week before in consideration, or the previous event that he was playing, where you had him in the mix for those names as well for a boost. And I said, you want to bet him because I said you want to bet more on Morikawa, or you want to bet him in your pool, and you didn't put him in. So I'm just saying we don't need to bet that guy, and I'm glad you didn't bring him up again.
Oh, I mean, he's in the. Should I just play the without Morikawa market?
Yeah, that was amazing. I posted about that. You set that one up too well. That was like a quick volley, and I had to spike that one. That was nice because I don't know what you're doing, betting that market, but I guess to each their own. Everybody does their own thing with golf betting.
It's always offered. It's just we've been getting to the point where you do have these super studs at the top in most of these tournaments now that it makes a lot of sense. Like, yeah, I don't want to go against Rory. I don't want to go against Scheffler. It's just funny to see like Ben Griffin as a part of that market.
The Scotty market makes a ton of sense. Like, I at least get it. I'm still not, again, a big proponent of it, but I understand it at least. So people are like, look, I'm scared of this guy. He's the best in the world. He just grinds people down, makes it happen, and wins. Sure. But this one was just so hilarious when you posted it out. That's just a product of what the tournament is, but still one of those guys can easily win. It's the field strength. It's not that strong, but for me, I just wouldn't be betting that. There's just so many ways for these other guys to get there anyway. So I just want the full odds.
Yeah, I think I'd be there too. The point I make, because I know that people are betting Harry Hall this week. I think he's around 35, 40 to 1. He's one of the most popular bets on the board. And in the without those top four market, he was 18 to 1, 20 to 1. It's like, if you're going to bet Harry Hall, just bet him at 40 to 1.
Get all the cash. That's my point. Yeah.
Yeah. If it was Scotty, listen, he wouldn't be 20 to 1 because it would just be a non-Scotty market. But if Harry Hall's going to win this tournament, he's going to beat Cantlay. It's going to be okay.
Sure, there's probably some math expert, ROI expert out there figuring this stuff all out, and good for them. But to me, I'm looking grand scheme, big picture. Somebody that wins the Harry Hall 18 to 1 without market bet, brag that up all you want. You're never winning overall. Like, it's just no chance if that's how you're playing things and betting things and doing things. I just don't see a world where that ends up being profitable long term.
Well, looking at the simulations, there actually is one guy. I mean, if I use the 30% boost, I could get him up to what? What the hell is he at right now? You could take Hideki to almost 40. He looks like broken at the moment, but he's probably the best player in this field whose name isn't Colin Morikawa. And he's probably pretty close to him anyway.
He's been the same as Morikawa. 17th at the same event, 21st at an event. Morikawa came 14th, 30th last week, beats his 42nd. It's not that far removed from what Morikawa is. If he withdraws, it is what it is. That's what people, but he might WD on you. He gets so many injuries. I get it. But that's why it's 40 to 1 versus 10 to 1 or whatever the hell Morikawa is.
And just in terms of overall win equity, you got to think that they're at least comparable, like very comparable.
I think win equity is skewed anyway this week because it's more wide open. It's not like a Scheffler week where if Scheffler's here, he's 30% to win based on something like that. It's nothing like that. The win equity is very spread out to me because you got to give a lot of those points from Morikawa, Cantlay, those guys that just haven't won forever, and move those down the board beyond what the odds say on paper.
Agreed. And the numbers and the simulations aren't going to take that into effect, but just looking at the win probability right now, Morikawa is less than 6% and he's number one. Keegan's 4.5%. He's second. Cantlay's 4% and so is Hideki. So it is completely wide open. Like,
Ben Griffin's more likely to win than all of them based on what we've seen this year. Again, it's just making light of it, but I get what you're saying fully. And I agree. So, did you bet your guy, John Pack? That got brought up in the chat too.
John Pack? No, I didn't bet John Pack. Should
I
be
betting
boy,
John man? Pack? Diamonds blinging? He might have had to take them out. But he got the studs. He had them before.
I don't think he needs to take him out. Do you like John Pack studs better or Ricky Castillo's shell necklace?
Oh, John Pack for sure.
I like Ricky Castillo.
Yeah, I think we can play him this week for sure. But if I'm picking one, I still like John Pack.
Oh, there is also another under the PME weekly boost for golf on CoolBet right now. There's a Wyndham Clark top 20 along parlayed with Lee Hodges to make the cut. That's plus 350. That's been boosted up from plus 325. So if you want an extra 25 cents, head on over to CoolBet and go get it.
Wyndham Clark. Remember I told you last week, Papa Tambo, who called the comeback. He finished top 20, but also unfortunate story. And I love because he listens to these shows. He had Victor Hovland in one and done.
Ooh.
In 111th place going into the week. He has Victor Hovland, and then we get that unfortunate round 4 WD that he couldn't make it happen. So that was the issue. Tough scene.
Have you ever seen a no-cut event that had more people WD from it?
Not in a long time that I can remember. Not that I can remember at all, but I haven't seen anything like that in a long time. I was going to say, even at what was it that one year that I know people made light of this as well, but wasn't it the Mexico Open with the water and the white pants, Tyrrell Hatton and all that stuff? But that's not a signature no-cut event. This was back in the day, dating ourselves, but you get what I'm saying. So don't see that very often. It was really weird just to see all those WDs throughout the week and at random times as well.
I find it strange that Siwoo, I would be, it's not Hideki I'd be worried about for a WD. Maybe this is non-factor because Siwoo was putting so poorly. He probably just said, screw it. But I think that there's a non-zero chance that this back injury that Siwoo Kim has, we've seen him pull off some WDs over his time, that if he gets it going bad the first few holes, I can see him pulling out.
Yeah, he was piping it yesterday too. I keep bringing it up because Ron Kloss, great dude. He's from the area out there, and we met him last year at the event. He showed, I think it was his video that Siwoo was piping them out there. Siwoo is always interesting anyway too, because there is some times that he just kind of you never know with him. I feel like sometimes he just bails and says whatever and moves on, and then he comes back the next week and just crushes. So I actually have interest in Siwoo this week, and it just got posted too that I knew this came up already about the caddy, but it is official that he's parted ways. So Morikawa with JJ Grenier or whatever his name is there, Joe Grenier, KK Limbahoust is his new guy, but he parted ways with him now after the 5 terrible results with him on the bag. So he's going another way now.
I feel like I've played that guy on DraftKings before. KK Linsbud.
Yeah, I think we've used him. I don't know if it was a Corn Ferry Tour or what, but I could look it up. But he's definitely in the mix for something.
Oh, here we go. The Pat Mayo qualifier I just got sent the email for that Cool Bet Open is July 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern time. If you guys want to get into that, that's going to be late for me. And there's a bounty on my head. You get like extra money if you take me out.
What's the first place prize?
Well, yeah, it's the quad. Like you win the queue seat to like the bigger queue, and then if you get in the queue, you get the trip to Eastern Europe.
Yeah, sorry, I meant in Estonia. What's the tournament? Did they have the details on like the guarantee for that tournament and what first place is, etc., or is it just all going to be worked out after?
Let's see. The pool will be at least 250,000 euros. The prize pool for the tournament. Nice. So it's probably like 100K. Paul, what was top prize when you did the Costa Rica one? Whoa. Was it over 100K?
I think it was like over 100K in the pot. I think like 10K to like first. I'm yelling so that people can hear. And then more people buy in, so it ended up being like 3 times that.
Yeah, so this one's going to have at least 250,000 euros
so
in it.
Probably get to like 400,000.
Yeah, that's nice. And I looked it up. KK, we played. He's Corn Ferry Tour most recent, but we had him as recent on the PGA Tour as where was it? It looks like the 2024 Byron Nelson. He missed the cut, but yeah, Corn Ferry Tour results skewed across the board, but mostly like 50th to 49th, 37th, 67th. Had a T4 at the Thailand Open back in, when was this one? I don't know. Either way, he's been on these tours before. We've seen him for sure.
Yeah, we're slipping in the one and done.
What's it down to now?
91st.
Okay, still.
It was looking good there for a minute. It's funny because I had Russell Henley on like my jabroni team. My jabroni team has moved up to 2,000 spots in the past 3 weeks. Should have just been making those picks for the good team.
That's what happened to me, but the problem is I started in 4,000. So it's like 2,000 spots increase. Nice, but it's the tricky part is, this is what I try and tell people though, Pat. I know there's limited time left on it, but in general, and we're going to talk one and done in a second anyway, but I was only, I might have told it last week anyway, but I think it was 6 million behind my dad sitting in the top 100 and like 111th place. I'm up there in 2000th, but it was only the difference of around 6 million. What if I get the winner at the signature event? What if I have Keegan last week? You're already skyrocketing up the board. And then you've got another major coming up. You've got some events down the stretch where you can pick up some cash. You just never know in this thing. So I think a lot of people write it off early, and there's a ton of ways to get back into it with the way the season sets up now on signature events and majors. Yeah,
I'm just trying to take a look at the leaderboard and to see. So 95th place is actually where I'm at the moment. So 19 point. Yeah. So of, let's say, 7th or 8th place, I'm only 3 million behind that. So if I can get the Open Championship winner and it's a bit off the board, no one else has it, I'll vault back up into the top 10.
And you had some interesting picks ready for that one. I think you'd saved. We talked through it a couple of weeks. You're like, I think I might save them for Port Rush. Who were the guys?
It was Straka and Lowry. I think that I still have, and I think the most people have used those guys.
I think it was Straka. There was so many places people wanted to use them, and you were saying that others may use, whether it's Fleetwood or Lowry or whatever different guys there. You could still have Straka in the bag and hope that he's better suited for that, as you kind of thought he might be.
Well, let's take a look at the show team. We got no Morikawa, no Cantlay, no Keegan, no Hideki, no Siwoo. So that's going to leave a lot of people on Ben. I would guess that just taking a look at availability, you have 16% left on Morikawa, 17% on Cantlay, 50% for Keegan, but I doubt that people go back to him the week after he wins. So then I'm just looking at the next two on the list, and Hideki's been 50% used too. Ben Griffin and Cam Young, they're the highest in the odds, and basically no one has used them. I would expect those to be the two most popular picks.
Yeah. I think that's going to be right. And Dad texted me this morning, Ben Griffin, baby, fire him up. So that tells you he's in a similar spot. Not many left. That's the way he's going with it. So I think that's right. Shout out to our guy EPAT. Just reminded us. It was also KK. We were playing him on the Outlaw Tour during COVID.
There it is. That's where I know the name from.
I knew I remembered that. Weren't we also playing JJ Spawn on the Outlaw Tour?
Yeah, he shouldn't have been. He was missing cuts on the Outlaw Tour.
Yeah, but we were playing him for sure. I mean, I actually made some good money on Outlaw. I thought it was a great time. And, Skyler, guys like that kept us running through it. It was awesome that way. But I just knowing some of those guys and the story of who was the guy? Was it Noah Goodwin? He's here at this event, by the way. But wasn't he the guy that missed the cut and then his friend interviewed him or they didn't let him in the tournament or something? I don't know. There's great Outlaw stories dating back to that, but there was a lot of stuff going wild at that time. So yeah, I don't know. What do we want to do for one and done?
I got Fitz, Minwoo, Akshay, Keith Mitchell, Grazerman. I don't want to use Harry Hall either. I think he's going to be quite popular. I can't be going with the chalk guy at this point if I still want to move up, which is kind of the shitty situation about where I'm at currently, 3 million outside of the top 10, to get inside the top 10. Obviously, I can't get that all back this week, but if I can get a winner here, that's again not one of the chalkier guys, I can vault back up with that almost $2 million inside the top 20 and then situate myself pretty well to make a run at the top 5 and try to get that 5-figure payout on this. Or I can just continue to flame out with a bad pick and then I'm down to 200th. I'm more okay with that. I want to play for the very top. So I have Davis Thompson in right now because I do like him this week. I think he can win. I do think that he's also going to be quite popular. So I'm thinking about switching that pick. Or would you say just roll with him if you think he's going to win, try to get different in the bigger money events? He's
probably still different enough that if you think he's going to win, you can roll with him. I think I don't know how many people go to Minwoo this week or Akshay. What do you think those guys come in at?
Very few, especially because I've just seen Minwoo's number grow throughout the week. And that's usually a good predictor of who people are on. Even when you pull up some of the sites right now, they haven't relisted everyone in the order of their odds. They're still in the order of their original odds, which is really helpful, by the way, because you'll see these guys that are with the now 60-1 players, but they're 35-1. So it's people looked at that range of 8 guys and said, oh, everyone said, hey, I'm betting Davis Thompson this week because he went from 50 to 35 and all of the other guys around him have now ballooned up to 60 because they didn't take any money. So
I like Minwoo and Akshay. That'd be my 2 choices, and then run with it. I guess I just feel the setup, the course itself. Obviously, we know where they were last year. It's nothing really to do with that as much. I do think this course just sets up better for their style of game. And sort of talked about being able to have this boom bust in your one and done, where you kind of want to play for it. You're okay if you drop down to 200th. Those would be the guys I'd feel best about, hoping they show up and go, put something together here. And if not, at least you didn't run out the exact chalk play that everybody else is doing.
So, yeah, I'll go with Minwoo on our team. I'll use Wyndham Clark on one of my other teams, now the team that's fighting to get back into the money that's dropped just outside the top 700. And then I'll try to figure out what I want to do with the team that's in 2000th place. I just really like Wyndham Clark this week.
You could use, he was another guy that I was going to say, and you could, I guess you could throw in there, because if you think he's on the up and up now, you want to hop on the train, this is the time to do it after last week if it's going to be real.
And when I did my comps early, because is shout out to the guy that sent me my reminder on betting Valimaki this week. There's nothing to point to Valimaki actually being good this week outside of this is the style of course where he plays really well. There was a substantial crossover with Mexico, Torrey Pines, and Houston, those courses where you just go full hog with your driver and figure out the rest. Those are the Valimaki courses. But those are also, that's where Minwoo won. That's where Woodland came in second, who I'm on this week. And that's where Wyndham Clark ended up coming inside the top 5 this year. Just if you have a ton of ball speed and everything else isn't all that difficult, if you can figure out the greens and make some putts, you are live in this tournament.
Yes. That's what I was saying earlier too, about the win equity stuff and how it can be skewed this week. That's what leads into it. And a lot of your guys, just if you get them right together, but your bomber dudes, some of them are going to be in the mix. It's just which ones. And that's kind of how it sets up. And it's not just because they're bombers. It's just like you said, it's all the factors that lead to it, from the tournament, the setup, the field strength, all these different factors lead into some of those guys being in the mix. You're just going to have to, for you, I don't know what you're playing this week, but I think you could have a little bit wider pool of the guys that you like and just tighten up a little bit on those guys down low, the ones that are your guys that you trust to know. You'll get enough of them, spread them in around the guys that you like the most up top, and then you could have a good player pool that way this week.
Let's try to figure out something for Underdog this week as well. Code Mayo and Underdog will get you a deposit bonus of up to $1,000, a free pick in the Pick'em game. And I got screwed by Brittany Griner yesterday in WNBA. I got hooked on my 20-1. She went over by 0.5 of a rebound.
Brittany Griner, man, you're in the streets. We talked about it last show. The WNBA is right up your alley. Another niche sport that you can jump into, but you're gonna have those ups and downs, Pat. You gotta deal with it.
Yeah, I would just prefer to lose all 5 than losing 1 by the hook.
Yes, that'd be better.
But overall, 4 out of 5 ain't bad. And you come close on the other one. It came down to the wire because listen, if you want to get people interested in your sport, let me play some Underdog hires and lowers on random sports. Not that I was watching the game, but I started tracking it towards the end because I was still awake. I was like, oh, she not going to get there? This would be huge if I can get out of this first set of games, like going perfect. See what we can do later on. Yeah, but you got to keep grinding, man. Back in the streets tonight. But for this week, there's got to be some good options on there, depending on how you see it playing out. That's the start. I'll run some numbers to see what happens. Underdog is not giving us I wanted to play some worse than positions for the entire tournament. So Morikawa worse than top 10 is 0.79. I feel like we'll throw that one on. I think that's fine to start us off. Yeah. What's that one pay you said? 0.79. I couldn't see it now. I got it up there now. Yep. Then we got some first round stuff. I mean, we can just do a complete first round one if you want to, but I don't know. I like. It feels like everyone's going to make a ton of birdies, but that's what I say every term, and then they don't do it. Yeah, and it's priced well. I mean, those 4.5s, you're not getting good odds on them. It's because it's likely to happen. There's so many birdies out there that you kind of just got to roll with it. Who are some of the other guys that you could sort of take unders on, or lowers, I should say, on? That's what it comes down to. How about Ricky? First round birdies lower than 4.5. You get juice on that. 1.11. Yeah, I think you're taking it for the juice. It's more that because obviously we know what Ricky can do around this course, and if it just depends what Ricky we get, but you got to take your stand somewhere. So, what about Tom Kim? I don't know how I feel about Tom Kim these days. Seems like he's playing a little bit better. I feel like he's been horrible, but yeah, he has been horrible. But that's what I mean. He's playing better. That he's not like quite as big of a disaster anymore. When does TGL come back? He's got to be fired up for that. I love the nickname Tom Sim. Tom Sim is pretty good. Yeah, he was 33rd at the U.S. Open, 45th last week in a field of what turned out to be 60 guys. That's a big improvement from the rest of his year. Yeah, I was waiting to see where you were going with that, but yeah, that's my thoughts too. So I don't know. I guess it's like, but it's Tom Kim. He can make birdies. I don't know if that's the best strategy for this as much as it is. What happens when you just pile on 3 guys at higher birdies? Okay, that's not going to work out all that well. I'd say go lower on Kim and Ricky and then find one guy we actually like to make birdies and go that way. So throw Jaeger on there. Look at the Ben Griffin 5.5. They're just giving this guy all the birdies. That's a lot of birdies. Yeah. They're just not giving us a lot of options this week. Maybe there will be some Jaeger more. Bombs higher. What's that? Higher 4.5? Higher 4.5, but that's juiced lower. Good. What if we just go Minwoo 5.5 birdies, 1.17? Yeah, I thought you were good with taking I mean, that's going to pay really well for sure. Yeah, it pays over 8-1. Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. Been losing at golf, so we'll go with 50. 50 pays 415. That will be the official Underdog play. Of course, they can't detect my location because that would be impossible. Because I'm lying about where I'm sitting currently doing this live show. I'll figure that one out later. But it's Minwoo higher than 5.5 birdies. Tom Kim and Ricky lower than 4.5 birdies. Pays 8.31 2-1. Use code Mayo. Get your free pick to throw on there, which would juice it up to 15-1 with the free pick if you're new, and you get that $2,000 bonus at Underdog 2. When we come back after the break, we'll be answering your questions, building some DraftKings lineups, and talking through the entire slate. So stay tuned. I got to tell you about some steak. Now, during their 4th of July sale at omahasteaks.com, you can get 50% off site-wide, plus my listeners get an extra $45 off with promo code MAYO at checkout. You get yourself ready for grilling season, and I already did. Got my package, so I went onto the site. I was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to get. So there is a package that's only a limited time only, and I took the upgrade because I'm already saving the $45. You think they would just send it to me, but I'm using the $45 with code Mayo, so I saved myself an extra $5 on this one. But you get 4 5-ounce bacon wrap filet mignons. You get some jumbo franks, some caramel apple tartlets for dessert, plus some Omaha Steak seasoning, and then the triple trim filet mignons. You get one of those, and 4 boneless pork chops. It's perfect for people who are coming over. Listen, there's weirdos out there who don't love steak. It's really strange to me. They want chicken, they want hot dogs, they want sausages, they want pork, whatever it might be. I know it sounds crazy, but I found these people in my life. So this package is what I had to go with because these people are the ones who are coming over for my kickoff to grilling season. And everything is going to be here in time from omahasteaks.com. That's why you got to use code Mayo. Get fired up for 4th of July with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their 4th of July sale and earn an extra $45 off. Use promo code MAYO at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $45 off with promo code MAYO at checkout. See site for details. Coming back, talking Rocket Classic DraftKings lineups. Who do you think the most owned guy is going to be, Tambo?
Somebody up top. Probably
Morikawa,
Cantlay, Ben Griffin, and then Davis Thompson in the 8K range.
You don't think Cam Young pushes that? A lot of people like Cam Young here.
Yeah, he could be up there too. He's the lower 9K guy that will be up there, but it's Cantlay of the top 3. It's Griffin, Young, and it's Thompson, and then after that, kind of take it from there. I think that's how it plays out.
I think you're going to see a lot of lineups start this way: Ben Griffin, Harry Hall, Cam Young, and they might lose Harry Hall, although I don't think that they will, and go down to Davis Thompson.
Yeah, I guess kind of what you got to figure out is where the other spots go, because it's going to be a product of that, right? I think it's, I will tell you this, the lineups definitely don't start with Ben Griffin. Majority. You can easily get to Cantlay, Morikawa, Bradley, and when you run an optimizer right now, I shouldn't say it that way as like so aggressive, but I'm just saying there's a ton of lineups that fit a 10K guy and no problem, and it just forces it where you could easily just leave the money and drop down to somebody else. But the balanced or the more balanced lineups do start with Ben Griffin. Yes.
Let's see. So here's an example of a lineup that I think that a lot of people are going to play. I just ran an optimizer, and here's one of the top results that came out: Morikawa, Ben Griffin, Davis Thompson, Seamus Power, Rico Hoey, Luke List.
Yeah, I feel like somehow you can get Cantlay and Ben Griffin in and just play another 7K guy. That'll be pretty
More
easy.
popular?
Well, just pretty easy for people to get to. I don't know how it actually shakes out, but I do think that would be what I would see happening.
What's 8,100? How about something like this? So what I have up on the screen right now: Ben Griffin, Davis Thompson, Cam Young, Griot, Knapp, Gotterup.
Yeah, for the balance build, again, I see like 2 9s, 2 8s, 2 7s. I don't think very many people even play 2 8K guys.
Really? The funny thing, because the first lineup I made this week was 3 8K guys.
That's way different than everybody this week. Yeah, like they're all going to get 10 to 15% for, not all, but the ones that are popular in there. But I just don't see a lot of people landing on it. There's way too many guys in the 7s. Like if you just go with Jake Knapp, who you already said, I think he fits in.
Okay, how about this? Cantlay, Griffin, Thompson, Griot, Knapp, Hodges.
Yes.
No money left.
Exactly.
That's the common build, you think?
Oh, something like that, yeah. And I think that played, there was 2 guys at 7,200 we were going to talk about. Was Lee Hodges and
Thorbjornsson?
Yes, but people will be playing Lee Hodges probably more often than Thor. I don't know, actually. That'll be close. But I think, what about Rio there? Rio seems to be popular as well. I'm seeing him pop in ownership.
What has Rio done lately, I guess, is the question. I guess he was 6th at the Schwab. Just hasn't played all that much. 47th at Canadian Open. He's only really had one good result. He plays the shorter courses just so much better.
Yeah. I think, again, either version of it, but Rio shows but more popular in that range. Maybe it is Thorb, because people, start to come around to what we're talking about and they see that he's fine and all that. But the point would be, pick your poison on Knapp, Griot, Thor. There's tons of ways to go down there, but I think you can easily see a Cantlay, Griffin, Thompson start and that. And what it says, just a couple things, like when I'm talking ownership thoughts, is there's not many lineups that are playing 2 plus 8K guys. Because if you go multiple 9s, you don't necessarily need it. You just had one version that kind of landed on it, but you don't necessarily need it. And there's very few lineups that play 6K guys at all this week.
So do you have a preference of any of the 6K guys? Because no one really popped out for me. And just for full disclosure, I really like Gary Woodland instead of Seamus Power at $7,100. But if you do sort by, no matter where you used to, you go to Fantasy National, sort by easy courses, even just this year only, a guy who's been terrible, but Seamus Power just destroys easy courses.
Yeah, there's not like a huge preference down there, but I think some of the, this like Steven Fisk is going to pop a little bit. Your boy Thirsty Lawrence is down there. I thought you'd be talking me into him. Trey
listen, unless you're at a link style course, I don't think that he's like playable whatsoever.
Okay, that's good. What about Toasty?
Toasty's most definitely in play.
Yeah, I was thinking like Toasty, Valimaki, the guys you were going to talk me into. I was thinking were more of those guys down below.
The problem is Valimaki I can see because dude can putt. The problem with Toasty is that you're going to have to bring your flat stick, and he just doesn't ever.
Okay.
Like I feel like you want him at a bomb and gouge track. That's also a little bit harder, so you're not forced to make so many putts.
And what about, there was one more too that definitely you would talk me into. Where's he at? Oh, Higo.
Higo's interesting because he just hasn't played much. You think he would play more, but he doesn't. He has a win. Yeah,
Higo could be the guy. That could be the one this week.
He has been awful at this course over time, but he didn't have with a win under his belt. I mean, he's been pretty terrible this year too, and then he just pops out of nowhere and ends up with a win. I like Will Gordon from down there. Obviously, I bet him first round later. He's $6,400. He mashes it off the tee. The irons can get hot, and he's like pretty capable as a putter.
Yeah, I think Will Gordon, you bet earlier. You said too, right? You were in on him
as first round leader.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was for first round leader. Yeah, I think the key is you don't really need anybody down here, but I think you don't need them until you do, right? That's kind of the setup. Is if one of these guys becomes needed and it's they have a 5. Like who's the guy down here that's getting the most ownership right now that you see?
I don't see anyone getting ownership down there.
That's one thing too. You may be able to get away with it. That's the other thing. And some people don't always realize that. Like, well, if think about the week that Schmid crushed. I'll use this example again, but the week that Schmid crushed, he just wasn't owned enough overall. And what he was owned with was Scotty on a week that Scotty wasn't necessarily needed. And so not many people had Schmid with the proper setup. And so when you're digging for gold down there and you're looking for the right guy and the needle in a haystack, because there's so many to choose from, you could end up getting it right, but not have everything else right with it. And therefore that golfer could be needed. But if they're only 3% owned, there's not enough lineups where they end up coming through on. Versus what kills you more is if you fade Ben Griffin and he crushes again and is right up there. And that's a weak killer right there when you don't have that.
The two that I'm seeing pop up, Valimaki and Fisk, who you mentioned. And Fisk legitimately can't hit enough putts to win this.
Possibly. He's going to fire it up, though. Like, he's going to try.
That he's going to attempt to make a putt? He sure will. And he'll probably result in many 3.
No, I mean, like, he fires away. One thing about him. So, the reason I like Steven Fisk, and I'll bring it up now, is just because you're already talking about him. It's just like, again, you don't know what anybody's going to do down here, but he fires at pins. So, when we have birdie opportunities out there, you never know. And if he gets away with it, that could be a use case. He's 6,900. He could easily be 7K, and then people wouldn't even be talking about it because he's in the 6K range. But like you said, there's enough guys, 68, 69, that are basically 7K guys, but there's also enough guys in the 7s that are sub 5% that, again, that's a pick your poison. We talked about Thor. We talked about, there's other guys there. There's EVR, there's Hubbard, there's Castillo, there's Putnam, there's Power, who you mentioned, Eckroat, Kevin Boy Toy Roy. You got all kinds of options in the low 7s, Potgeider. So you can play a ton of different options in the 7s and get away with it, not even need the 6s at all.
See, I don't think that Steven Fisk is markedly above someone like Will Gordon, who's $600 cheaper. Even Norman Zong, who's $6,300.
Yeah, but that's my point. Like, Fisk isn't chalk. He's got like 1 to 2%. So you just pick your guy. Is my point. Yeah, play whoever you like down there. If you don't like him, you'd play a different guy. That's for sure.
I would play a different guy. I'd probably try to play a different style of guy. Like, the only time that we've ever seen Fisk putt reasonably, and even then he still wasn't good, was at Puerto Rico when he came fourth. And those are the slowest greens on earth. And these ones aren't.
Yeah. So that, I mean, that's going to be, like I said, more personal choice down there who people go with, but it's mainly just pointing out, like, you can go with anybody. And if you need the 6K guy, you end up on him, like if you like somebody else there, but you can just as easily move up to Power, Castillo, Hubbard, whoever else you like in the low sevens. And it's not going to cost you. It's like $200. You're able to afford them easily off of Steven Fisk for the example we gave.
Yeah, if you just want Steven Fisk, play Trevor Cohn for less money and upgrade your spot anywhere else. They're basically the same guy.
How much is he?
64.
I had him up here a second ago. I wanted to see.
Yeah, it says $6,400. He's the same price as Will Gordon, who it would be my preference of those guys. But as you mentioned, I just don't think you need to go down this low.
Yeah. And I think some people like Cohn out there this week, but it's like, again, for most, they're not going to even look the guy up. 42nd, 52nd, and then 5 missed cuts. What's the difference? That's what I'm saying. It's really just to pick your poison down low. But the main point, where so many people focus on who the pick is down there, I'm focused on the roster construction. I could see a world where if you want to go that way and they end up being on the lineup and you can pair them up the right way, that's definitely going to be a different build to use even one, let alone 2 6K guys. But there is a ton of options. You just don't need them at all because you're getting similar golfers that project way better, and projections are only one thing, but in the 7K range that nobody's playing either. So you can get just as different with that range, or leaving money, or whatever it might be.
You made mention that no one's going to start their lineups with Ben Griffin. I don't see if you think Ben Griffin.
No, that's not what I said.
What'd you say?
I was saying that you were starting that as the chalk build of the week. And I think, yes, when lineups start with Ben Griffin, that is if lineups start with 9K, and skip the top, that is the chalk build starting with Griffin. I'm saying I think the actual chalk build of the week starts with one of the 10K guys, most likely Cantlay, because you can easily play Cantlay Griffin together. That's all I was saying. People are playing Ben Griffin tons this week. It's just, I was saying it for the chalk build we always do. I think more people jump up over the top and stack Cantlay with him.
So you think that Ben Griffin is more chalk as a second man in rather than a first man in?
I just think for the most owned lineup, the way I see it, that plays out because Davis Thompson is a factor for sure. And it's easy. It's still very easy to fit Cantlay up over the top. You could end up still, again, it seems weird to say it this way because of what you're trying to say. And what I'm pointing out is that there can still be more lineups that start with Ben Griffin than lineups that start with Cantlay and Griffin for sure. But I'm saying in the chalk build that we do every week, trying to predict the most owned lineup, I feel like that Cantlay Griffin lineup just fits easily a million different ways for people because it's so clean cut to go Cantlay, Griffin, Thompson, and then anybody in the mid sevens that you still want still fit. So I just think there's a ton of those different builds as like the most popular lineup. Ben Griffin's starting point will be the most popular lineup starting in the 9K range for sure.
So I've built a lineup that's on screen right now. And I think this is the style of lineup that I like this week because I'm just not impressed with the guys at the top. I don't think that paying over $10,000 for Morikawa, Bradley, Cantlay, or hell, even Ben Griffin at $9,800, I don't think that they're that much better than the players in the 8Ks. Like the gap in pricing does not reflect the price and talent or how well that these guys can play. When I can take for less than $9,000, I can have Wyndham Clark, Minwoo Lee, Davis Thompson, and I'll throw even Keith Mitchell in there because the dude makes a ton of birdies. Like those guys aren't that. Why is Harry Hall $1,000 better than Minwoo Lee?
Yes. Yeah. So a couple points here, and you're making them, and I'm just trying to hammer them down. Is like, yeah, this does have 4 8K guys, and some will say it's aggressive and whatever. Sure, that's fine. You can do your stuff however you want to do it. But the point would be most lineups have Davis Thompson or no 8K guy. Most. Obviously, there's tons of variations in portfolios and people that will have different builds in there. But the point being, any lineup with 2 or more 8K guys or 8K guys without Davis Thompson is going to be naturally different. There's not a big enough difference. And then you say, oh, but I'm going to go this way with it with Ben Griffin. You can still build a Cantlay with 2 8K guys. Like even if you like Cantlay and you just can't get that thought out of your head that he's the guy that you need up top, you could skip the 9K range with Ben Griffin and Harry Hall and Cam Young and do your Keith Mitchell, Minwoo Lee, for example, completely different in the 8K from Davis Thompson, still have Cantlay and get 7,500 left per person and still be able to play that lineup. Just an example. So 2 8K guys, one not being Davis Thompson, can still go to Cantlay up top or something else where you're getting different and be different as a roster construction. But people will be like, oh, the Cantlay chalk got there. A bunch of losers played Cantlay. Sure, but did you play them with Minwoo and Keith Mitchell and 5% or less owned guys in the 7K range. That's what you got to think about.
Yeah, my first gut reaction, where is it? I saved it here. This was my first gut reaction. It's funny that was the lineup that you said. Cantlay, Clark, Minwoo, Davis Thompson, Lee Hodges, Woodland was the first lineup that just the pricing open is like, that's the lineup I want to build.
So only difference, I had Minwoo, but you put Woodland and it landed you on, who was the other guy? Davis
Hodges.
Thompson.
Yeah, I left $300 on the table.
Yeah, so you're playing in the similar. So this is the prime point. In the original build that I thought would be the most popular with Cantlay, Griffin, Thompson, and then pick your poison down below, not the most popular, but the starting point. This still has Cantlay and Thompson, and Davis Thompson would be considered chalk, terrible chalk or whatever, and people don't love it. But this is how you get away with it. You have 3 8K guys. Most don't have any more than one. So most playing Davis Thompson don't have any other 8K guys. You have 2 additional. Wyndham Clark, Gary Woodland, and Hodges have like no ownership or very little, even if Clark gets a little bit of steam because
I think Hodges is the one who ends up getting the steam.
Maybe they do. I'm just saying overall, you've got a ton of low owner. You still have a ton of leverage in this lineup in more ways than one. Lower owned plays that are still probably good plays. It's not like completely off the board. You're not loading this up with, Fisk, Valimaki, and Pack and seeing what you can fit. You're playing good options still, but you've changed the construction, even using some of the chalk pieces. This is where, Pat, I think people struggle when they're building single entry. They get stuck and they're like, well, but I still have Davis Thompson, who everyone says is bad chalk. I still have Cantlay. He's the most popular guy up top. How could I possibly play this? Easy. You can play good plays around it in a completely different roster construction that still fits the mold. You're not in the 9s. You're skipping over. You're probably got FOMO. You don't have Griffin. You don't have Matsuyama, Hall, Young, whoever you love there. You don't have any of them. You don't have the 7K chalk either, and you're not playing any 6K guys. So you still have a completely different build that in a smaller field, you can get away with this no problem. This
is funny because that's exactly what I was going to tell you. If I play like the $250 4 max this week, but I play it like a single entry, the one that I built with Will Gordon is probably a tad too aggressive. But
Sure.
This lineup, I feel like, is where I want to be around, or the one that I just built. That was, what the hell was it? It was this one. The one that's Hideki, Wyndham Clark, Minwoo, Davis Thompson, Smalley, and Lee Hodges. So it's Hideki as my main guy, 4 8K guys, and someone I like in the 7s. Listen, Lee Hodges isn't safe because he's Lee Hodges and he's $7,200, but dude ball strikes like almost every single week. I know he misses the cut because sometimes he cannot putt whatsoever. But if we're just talking about ball striking, he's one of the better guys out there.
So it was Hideki, Minwoo, double Lee with Minwoo, Lee, and Lee Hodges, Clark, Thompson, and Smalley at 8K, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And this would be a prime example as well, too. So again, you're back to your 4 8K guys, but if the win equity, like we already said, is skewed up top, and you mentioned even like Hideki being a guy that could replace one of those guys, like if it is a good Hideki week, sure. But this is how you get away with playing Davis Thompson and ignore the steam that any of those other guys might get. If Lee Hodges gets it, so be it. We know Davis Thompson will be popular. If Smalley and Clark get a little bit, so be it. You're going to have all guys in the mid-teens or less versus having the outside of Davis Thompson versus having multiple 20% owned guys or very close to it with the Cantlay, Griffin, Thompson start that also backs you into the corner of 7K lower range or mid 7K guys. That everybody has the same type of build.
Do you like Hideki at all? Or not, sorry, do you like Clanton at all this week?
So it's interesting because they priced him up like they know what he is, and that's fine. Obviously, he's super talented, and this would be the spot. And I think last year he was really in the mix, right? We were there live. I remember him coming up to the DraftKings booth, and some people got pictures with him and stuff like that. I just missed it, but not a big picture taker anyway. As people know, I'm not really good at smiling, but 9K is a pretty high price tag for him that kind of makes it. You always talk about pockets, Pat. Grazerman, Clanton. That's definitely a pocket right there because even if people, and maybe not even Siwoo, I know sometimes Siwoo gets steam because of the projections, but you got to think people are playing Griffin, Hall, Young over Siwoo, Grazerman, and Clanton, and they for sure are over Grazerman and Clanton, even if you want to give Siwoo some love. So yeah, I think Clanton and Grazerman are interesting at the bottom of the 9K range.
It's funny because I think that Clanton ends up the highest owned of that pocket, then Grazerman, then Siwoo. I think that people are kind of on board with me that they're kind of terrified of Siwoo's back. It could be nothing, but again, I truly think that if he starts badly, he's gone. Like I even wrote it up in Golf Digest. It was him versus, I forget who it was. It was someone that I like against him anyway, like just as a coin flip, and Siwoo was the favorite in the matchup. I think it was Harry Hall, who like, I'm pretty indifferent to, but I have them rated out about the same. But you give me like plus 110 on Harry Hall versus a Siwoo who might just call it quits after 4 holes. I mean, maybe he doesn't, but if he's 3 over through 4 holes, watch out for WDs.
Yeah, possible. I don't know what he's rushing out to, just maybe to enjoy the summer, but there's not like I just don't see it. I think again, he looks okay. Maybe people are fearful of him for sure, but that's the Warren Buffett. That's when I want to get greedy. So I'll pay to find out on Siwoo this week.
Yeah, you're paying to find out, but I still think that he's a guy in that range who is still, like you said, he could be the one who ends up getting the steam. Oh, I know why he's playing.
Because
he needs to get into the Open.
There you go. So if he's 3 over after 3, maybe he does. I don't know. Like I try to alleviate my thoughts of those types of things and focus more on just roster construction. Then the plays matter at the end of the week. The plays on your lineup do matter. People are like, well, I needed that guy. He won me all the money. Sure, that's true at the end of the week, but you didn't know it going in. So all I can do is build accordingly with what I'm up against. And none of that information it's just as up in the air as it is the other way. So meaning it's like, could he withdraw? Yes. Could he play good? Yes. Therefore, if people are going to be fearful of him because of those things, then I would have interest in him because to me, it's just as equal, if not more, based on strength of field, that he's better than a lot of the guys in this field and can show up and be good Siwoo.
Yeah, he can show up and be good Siwoo, but I don't think he's markedly better than any of the players that he's currently around. And I do think that when people like really get in on Siwoo, it's when he's $7,600, not necessarily 91. But if he's going to stick around 10%, I'm willing to try to dodge that bullet a little bit, only because guys at the similar price, similar ownership, or potentially less, I just feel better with that. I don't want to inherit that risk. I mean, I see it coming from a mile away. I've followed Siwoo enough in his career to know sort of his ups and downs here.
Yeah. I mean, that's completely true. Siwoo's your boy, and that's the case, but that's fully subjective. Like there's nothing that says he's going to withdraw this week unless he does. I
mean, it's pretty... Guys that withdraw the week before then try to force through it don't tend to. Usually they pull out before the tournament. So if he doesn't,
I was just going to say, I'll be honest. I mean, we've both been doing this a long time. You rarely see back-to-back WDs if they're going the next week out. Like I
do, but this is a weird scenario where there's a list of guys and most of them are playing this week. It is some of these guys might be in, might not be. Mac Hughes, Jagger, Reed, I guess Reed's not in the field. Matt McCarty, Michael Kim, Tom Kim. Tom Kim is in. Bud Cauley, so must be in because he's not playing. Echeverria, Riley. John Rahm is 60th in the world rankings, by the way. Davis Thompson, Siwoo Kim. Kevin Yu pulled out, so he must be in. But all these guys need to qualify for the Open Championship. So you'll probably see them this week and next week and probably at the Scottish for whenever that cutoff is to get themselves into that tournament.
Siwoo gonna withdraw and then go play the John Deere?
Might. That feels like a great Siwoo course.
Oh, I guess I'll be riding the Siwoo train. I'll follow the WDs until he's down to nothing. But yeah, I'm fine with Siwoo to put a button in that one. Like to each their own. Cam Young's right there. People can play him. All I know is people are going to play a ton of Cam Young, Harry Hall, and Griffin, and even Decky is getting a little bit of steam late because people are looking at that option like you are, and I think it's good. I like Decky too. I think that the way you're looking at him is correct. If Decky shows up and has a good Decky week, then you're going to be in really good shape versus the guys around him because it's more about what he does versus you're not going to end up with a ton of, which you can, by the way, but you're not going to end up with a ton of Ben Griffin Decky lineups. It's likely going to be Decky over Griffin. The Griffin chalk stumbles or Decky over Young or Hall, and that chalk stumbles, and then you've got Decky in a good spot that's unique to others. So I think that's the way I'm thinking about it.
What's funny that when you look at the actual generated lineups on Fantasy National right now, the projected ownership and the favorite percentage is really low on Hideki. People aren't just going to click on him. Yet, when you look at the number of lineups that have actually been generated, he's equal to Ben Griffin and Cam Young and Harry Hall.
Decky is, right? You're talking about?
So it seems like if people, so that what that tells me is that Hideki's not for everyone, but the people that are playing Hideki are basically like locking Hideki.
Yeah, and that's a good point you brought that up because Ben Griffin is for sure going to be the guy because from recent form, So-so course history, but good enough here. 30th places, like 35th, somewhere in that range. And then also price point, et cetera. Like people are still getting there as we saw. But the one thing about like Decky versus Hall versus Young is it's really more of a grapple of like Young is more the form and people just wanting to play him and his results here. Decky actually projects better on projection sites than Hall and Young. And then people just like Harry Hall. So, and his form is pretty solid as well. So I guess like that's what's happening there. And I think you could just see a world where maybe it's like Young, but then just a small gap to Hall and Decky because people play them and come around on them in the end anyway, or they lean off Ben Griffin a little bit in the end because they're getting too much or hearing us talk through it and be like, there's other guys here. And that ends up just balancing all four of those guys in a tighter range, if you will.
The more we talk this through, the more I like Grazerman.
Yeah, Grazerman and Clanton are both interesting at the bottom, but I would prefer Grazerman still as much as I like Luke Clanton. I think he's excellent player, really. But Grazerman's just kind of been, man, it's in the name, but he's just been grazing those top finishes. 23rd, 25th, 22nd, 27th, 32nd, 36th. Like he's just close, but not there. But we've seen him on runs where he's got there. And so, or pushed himself higher than that. So if we get a top 10 out of him this week or something more, that can be pretty valuable. And just people don't want to pay that really, right? 9,100, 9K for Clanton. That range is interesting.
What are his betting odds? Because I've been trying to pump this point because the schedule is so much different now than it used to be. And maybe it's nothing. I mean, if you just look at my success of hitting outright winners this year, you'd be like, Pat, why don't you just try the opposite of what you're doing? Because that would be a much better strategy than whatever you're working with. But I think there's something to some of these players that we consider to be very, like just grazing decent finishes, like Grazerman, that 36th, 23rd at the U.S. Open, 25th, 22nd, 33rd, 51st, 27th, 32nd. So that's an 8-tournament stretch where it's hard to miscut no-cut events, but only one of those isn't a major or signature event. Like he doesn't play against this quality of field anymore.
Key. And his odds actually are less than 40-1. So it's not like he's getting, it's not like you're getting a big bomb there, but the point is what you just said. It's strength of field stuff. That is kind of baked in because that's why he's 9,100. But this is the tricky part, Pat, and this is what I try and explain to people all the time, and they can't quite comprehend it. It's like they'll say, yeah, but everything you guys just listed is no good if he's just going to get me a 30th place. He's sure 9,100. I can see the screen. I literally know his exact price. I'm looking at it. It's what you're saying and what you're pointing out is those strength of fields. It's the old Adam Scott thing where he used to play in all the strongest fields, the hardest courses only. Like, this guy sucks. He only ever comes 25th to 30th. But he was priced for it. In this case, Grazerman, all those events, Pat, he's 2 strokes away from being a top 20 in all of them, pretty much, give or take, if you want to put it down on paper like that. So if he shows up this week and gets a top 10, because it's definitely possible, and other guys around him don't show up, or he's the piece that sort of separates you there, that's the differentiator that people don't understand and aren't focused on. They'll just say, oh, well, 30th place is no good for 9,100. True, but that's not what we're saying is going to happen here, or not why we're trying to validate it.
Weirdly, too, his DraftKings scoring has been pretty good, even against those fields. So even like past 24 rounds, he's top 10 in this field in eagle rate. He's top 25 in par 5s. And again, he's not doing that against the Puerto Rico Open field. He's doing that against Rory and Scotty and all those guys. His best finish, he has a bunch of second-place finishes, but the tournament that we didn't talk about this on Monday. We thought about like biggest gags on the PGA Tour. Grazerman at the Wyndham he was up by 4 strokes and took a quad.
Yeah,
I was there.
Yeah, that was really bad.
Hey, but that's also a Donald Ross course. This is a Donald Ross course. He played pretty well at the Rocket last year in his first go around. What's encouraging about him right now to look at it, he went through a really bad stretch from basically the beginning of the season through the Heritage, and it started to come around back a little bit. He stopped driving the ball at all. Like he was losing to the field, and his iron play like went in the tank. Like the players is always going to be something really weird that 2 bad shots can really impact it. But you're seeing at Torrey, -4, -2 in Houston, -3 at the Arnold Palmer, -1.5 at the Heritage, -6 at the Truist. Since he's 4 of 5 gained on approach, and he's back to gaining 4.4 off the tee, 2.8 off the tee, gaining off the tee in 4 straight. So the ball striking is coming back for him, and the putting has kind of dipped a little bit, but that's the strength of his game, these spike putting. I'm going to bet that's going to where I'm going to use my 30% boost. So Coolbet has him at 40-1 right now. So what's that get me up to? What's 30% of 40? You're a smart guy. What is that, like 13%?
40 would be, is it not 12?
Is it 12?
30% of 40?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it is 12. It's exactly 12.
4
So,
yeah.
I'll get him up to 52-1. I'll mark it as a 40 on the card, but I'll get him at 52. Max Grazerman, welcome to the club, pal.
Just like that. You made the team, baby. You made the team.
Sometimes I like talking this through. I mean, on Monday, we're just seeing everything. I mean, DraftKings wise, I do like him a lot as well, because I even pulled something up on the screen here about a common start. And we'll see if we can make that lineup work. But I think if you just change like Griffin into Grazerman, you can make this work a lot easier. But yeah, welcome to the card. I'm going to write that down. Max G 40-1, but really it's going to be 52-1. So I'll win all the monies there. Cantlay, Griffin, Cam Young. People are going to try to make this work, I think.
Yeah, the other thing too was you just made me look something up. You mentioned the Wyndham and the Grazerman stuff. Cam Davis, solid at the Wyndham, and obviously won here twice. So, like you said, just, thinking about that course and bringing it up. Some of the other guys that have done well, like Taylor Moore, Steven Yeager, any of those guys sort of, suit. I mean, freaking Siwoo should be here. Someone said Siwoo's in the John Deere next week. I mean, Sungjae, sorry, my boy Sungjae, he crushes the Wyndham. He should be, he's going to win the event next week at John Deere.
I feel like Wyndham and John Deere do have more in common than Wyndham in this, just because you can go such driver heavy here if you want to. And you can't do that at those courses. You don't need to do that at those courses. But this will cut, like, especially because there's 4 par 5s here. If you bomb it, you can make mincemeat of them.
Yeah, I think you're right as well. So who else?
Let's see. I just turned on the Donald Ross filter on Fantasy National. Let's see. Strokes per round. Clanton, Grazerman, Hoey, Hisatune, Cam Young, your top 5. Cam Davis, Ben Griffin, Min Lee, Tom Kim, Chris Kirk, and Adam Hadwin. Then Nick Dunlap, who's like 3,000-1 now.
I wonder if that's is that the Rio popper? Remember we talked about it earlier?
What?
Rio was popping. You just mentioned him, right?
I talked about Rio. I don't like him at longer courses. I like him at the shorter courses.
Yeah, well, maybe this course you could start a lineup with like Rio, Clanton, Grazerman.
You could. Oh, here's another interesting. What about Matt McCarty? The simulation likes him to like. He's top 10 in win equity per simulations. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, we like him for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll throw him into the player pool as well. I don't know if I'll get there to bet him. But if we were to make this lineup, Cantlay, Griffin, Cam Young, you're left with 6,900. How would you try to make this work? Would you stick with Fisk and like the guys that we talked about, or would you just go off the board with one guy? Like I the way that I would want to play this, I would use Norm or the lower guy. I'd take Norm at like 63 because I don't think that he's any different than Steven Fisk, and I'm saving a bunch of money. And then I got 7,200 left, and you can go Hodges, whatever, if you wanted to. I like what you could go Hisatune Hodges, that would fill it out. I like Woodland. I mean, Nico in a birdie fest is always like a pretty.
What
good
about
look.
like Trevor Cohn, Jake Knapp, Potgieter?
I don't know if I can do Potgieter, man.
Just jam it in. That's the one.
How about, I mean, we just mentioned McCarty. Let's use Matt McCarty, and that gets us to 74. Is there anyone at 74? I mean, Griot. Do you like Griot? People seem to be all over him this week.
Yeah, he's fine actually. He'll pop into some lineups. Is
Cam
he 74?
Davis?
Yeah, there you go. Close it out with him, or Cam Davis, Pat.
There we go. We'll throw in Cam Davis just for solidarity for the course history bros out there. But Cantlay, Griffin, Young, Norm, McCarty, Davis. If you don't build it that way, you're looking at, let's see here. Throw that one in and just try to make it a bit more balanced at the bottom. I think you're in that Toasty, who I do like, Fisk.
You don't like Fisk though. Get him out of it.
I don't like Fisk, but I'm just trying to see how people would try to build this.
You could go Toasty, McCarty, and your $6,900 guy. I like Norlander, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, I just never liked Norlander. I'd rather do it this way, I think. If it was up to me, instead of doing
Cam Champ is here, man. This is the guy.
Yeah, Champ, McCarty, Valimaki fills it out to 0 as well.
Champ, McCarty, Valimaki.
Yeah.
And then
you got-
what about who's the other guy that's here that I was going to tell you about? Did you see Aaron Wise, 6,200?
yeah, I'll take a big pass on that.
What the hell has this guy been up to?
He suffered from like mental health issues, and now he's just trying to grind his way back.
Okay. Cheap, but yeah, interesting.
Aaron Wise, official world. Let's see where he's at in the world. He is currently 1,849th in the world. Best ranking, 33rd.
What was that lineup you had earlier with Norm in it? If you go import, what was the Norm lineup that you had?
It is Cantlay.
I know the starting point. Sorry, who rounds it out with Cantlay, Griffin, Young, Norm?
McCarty and Cam Davis.
Oh, okay. This could be it then. You know who you can play instead of Norm? The chat just reminded me, they brought him up, is you can play Sargent.
Oh, God. How has he made a cut since turning pro?
Good question, but we play for the upside.
But are we sure that there is upside, or is Gordon Sargent like low rent Patrick Rogers?
Oh, he's gonna, yeah, who knows, right? Yeah, Patrick Rogers is gonna win forever, and he still hasn't either.
Yeah, Patrick Rogers, best amateur in the world. It's been like 15 years, and people are like, he was the best amateur in the world.
It's tough scene. I don't know. I just thought about that when you brought up Norm. So I always like Norm though. Panda's the guy, so we can do that too. I just was looking up different builds.
Panda's actually been good, weirdly enough. I've actually bet on him a few times this year. I mean, he fails down the stretch on Sunday. That happens. But let's see, 25th cut, 12th, 40th, cut, 47th, cut, 29th. Like for a $6,400 guy, he has top 25 upside, and he scores too, which is great.
Yeah. Also, one thing I've noticed on this whole thing, like we haven't talked about anybody because all the builds land in the lower sevens. Ownership projections still show the upper sevens getting love, but like Olesen, Gerard, Norin, Yager, Michael Kim, Benny Ann, Taylor Moore. Benny Ann should be played here. We talk about, the Wyndham stuff. We talk about other things. Like he's definitely got the ability to come through at this course.
Yager, let's go Yager, Ben Ann.
And Grace.
It's funny because these two actually fit the kind of lineup that I want to build this week. Because you go Clark, Minwoo, Davis Thompson. You got 95. You can almost fit Hideki in that lineup. You can fit Harry Hall.
Let's see. Clark. And you said Minwoo?
Yeah, then Davis Thompson.
Well,
let's say this is the one we don't play Davis Thompson. We play Chris Goddard instead or Alex Smalley. Two guys I actually don't mind all that much. I'll take Smalley because I think he putts a little bit better. And then I'll take Hideki. And that lineup works. I don't see why. I get the want to use Morikawa, Bradley, Cantlay, Griffin, and two of those guys, and Cam Young. But the difference between those three guys and all six of these guys is marginal at best. And the difference between Ben Ann and Steven Yager and Steven Fisk, Will Gordon, and Valimaki is substantial.
That's where I'm saying you're probably just taking on too much. I like that call. Let me ask you this. If you had to drop one of Wyndham and Minwoo, who would you drop?
Probably Wyndham. Although Minwoo, I think, has a much better chance of missing the cut than Wyndham Clark does. I think he has a better chance to win.
And then who is that $7,500 guy you mentioned? Do you like Kitayama, Wallace, Kirk, Tom Kim, Cam Davis, Griot? Who's sort of the best guy there for you?
I don't. I actually like I like the range below them. But I guess of those guys, if you're going to force me on the spot, I feel like Wallace is playing good golf. 23rd cut, 22nd, 17th. Yeah, let's roll with him. Let's go with Matt Wallace.
So if you do this, then take out and put in Matt Wallace and then jump Smalley up to Grazerman.
Okay. I can do that.
That's it. That's interesting build, right? Something like that. Because what I was saying earlier, so this is another example. So you're already in a pocket that not many are on. And then you can do different things with this. Like if here's an example. So this lineup, I'm going to explain two things quickly. This lineup's fine. It's 2 9s, 1 8, and 3 7s, but it hits the pocket that nobody's on, like Benny Ann, Yager, Wallace. Like we just saw a lot of lineups can't land there. But if you pull Minwoo down to Davis Thompson because you like that chalk and you're good there, you can now pull Decky you're $200 away, but you like the range below is what I was trying to say. So if you take Wallace out, move Decky to Cantlay, who's the guy you said at 7,300? Jake Knapp or
It's Hodges, isn't it?
yes, Hodges 72. So now you can play Cantlay, Grazerman. Not many people are going to have that start at all. And then you'd have Thompson chalk with Cantlay, but you're doing it by going to ranges that other people aren't landing in as much. You've got Ann, Yager, and Hodges to round it out. So if you think about how we started, that's another build that you could get different with it. And just an example, and it still projects really well, has enough leverage built in. It doesn't have the Young, Hall, Griffin, other popular plays outside of Cantlay and Thompson. The other four are quite different, or at least held in check. And so for something like a single entry, this is how you get there as well.
The more I think about the builds that we're doing, we haven't built a single lineup with Morikawa or Keegan.
Right. Keegan's, not going to get much here because of price and everything. But if people are building, we looked at it yesterday with Saber Sim and contest sims and things like that. Anytime someone like him is coming in super low owned, he will get pushed a little bit by the end of once it's all said and done, just because if you're looking to get unique up top, it's clearly with Keegan, the guy coming off a win higher than life, off another win at the Travelers, and the way it happened and the Ryder Cup stuff. I mean, he's got to be feeling it right now coming into this one, whether or not that turns into anything. Pretty much any Cantlay lineup can be Keegan. It's $200. You can get it from anywhere.
Yeah. So someone in the chat, do you have any more before we get to some of the questions?
No, let's do the questions. I'm good with that. It's getting, good on lineups, I think.
Yeah, I feel like we spent more time talking through a lot of like different sets of lineups this time around. Someone just asked me, where is it here? Is there a correlation between Donald Ross course poppers and birdie or better percentage? I shall look that up for you. Let's see. Donald Ross, I mentioned before. So let's go Donald Ross courses. And one thing, actually, I'll do this too. I'll limit it to last year and the year before, just the past 2 years, because it's the first of the Donald Ross courses that we're going to be seeing. And you have Eastlake built into that as well, although the numbers from those are really weird. And basically none of the guys going to Eastlake are playing this week. So if we just keep that in mind, we'll go to strokes gained, we'll go to average, and we'll go to total. I got it over past 12 rounds, past 2 years. So Morikawa, so if we just go past 12 rounds, past 2 years, Morikawa, Hadwin, Clanton, Thompson, Cam Young, Grazerman, Rico, Hisatune, Wyndham Clark, Ricky Fowler, Cam Davis, obviously, Minwoo, Lauer, Hayden Springer. Lauer's interesting. Dunlap, Kuchar, Bridgman, Ben Griffin, Seamus Power, Keegan, Akshay, Keith Mitchell, Mac Meisner. Remember when he was the thing? He's up there too.
Who are some of the guys in the top 10? Real quick, it was Morikawa, Hadwin, Rio.
Grazerman, Cam Young, Davis Thompson, Clanton, Clark, Fowler, Davis, and then Lauer.
No Decky?
No Decky. I don't think Decky really only plays Eastlake, doesn't he? Like Hideki has two rounds in the past 2 years at Donald Ross courses. It was at this event in 2023, and he missed the cut.
Okay, I got one for you then. This is a fun one.
Hit me.
Morikawa, Grazerman. Nobody's going to have that start. And then you can run it out with, Morikawa, Cam Young, Grazerman. Let me start you off with a big boy here. 10-9-9. And then it lands you on Rio, Hadwin, and Mac Meisner to round it out. It's aggressive, but
a bit aggressive.
But man, if Hadwin, Rio, and Meisner come through, that's fine.
Well, if that happens, and Cam Young is most definitely missing the cut.
Yeah, probably snapping his driver and missing the cut by one, or who knows what with this guy. But yeah, that's just interesting to see. Like when you run it off like that, that's how we had this conversation yesterday. If I'm using like a model, that's how I prefer to use it. Some people get stuck in the pattern of I go this process for the start of my lineup, and then I round it out with this guy because the model says this. I like looking at it from perspective, like if I'm committing to it or trusting it, I would rather use the whole thing and just almost treat it as like you know how we talk about skill set builds. I would build it as a model build. This is my model build of this, and that's kind of how I would think about it if I was doing it that way.
So here are the names. So I went through those names of the Donald Ross course the past 2 years. So I just went back and looked at the past 50 rounds. Who is leading in birdies or better gained of anyone in this field? Clanton, Mitchell, Jesper Svensson, Harry Hall, Akshay, Morikawa, Yager, Griffin, EVR, Ryder, Danny Walker, Smalley, Keegan, Rasmus, Cantlay, Thorbjornsson, Celinda, Cam Young, and Jake Knapp. So not a 1v1.
I need like a few more guys. I got Clanton, Mitchell, Akshay, Jesper. Who are some of the others up there? Big names, like big, not like the Morikawa names, but like mid-range guys. Who else did you say?
EVR, Jaeger.
Yeah, Vin. Okay, let's do this. Van Rooyen. And then was Harry Hall up there or no? Cam Young?
Harry Hall was 4th. Yeah.
He was?
Yeah.
All right, I got the nuts. Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go, Pat. It is Harry Hall, Luke Clanton. Then you go Keith Mitchell, Akshay, and you round it out with Svensson and Van Rooyen. 998877, completely different build. Actually projects really solid, and obviously you got a ton of leverage built into that. But that's a risky one, but not real. Like if these other guys at the top don't do anything, how is it that risky? Van Rooyen's been in the mix. Van Rooyen went like very recently. Didn't he go like 4 under 70 and still lose? What was that one?
He has a second place finish mixed between miscuts and no finishes.
We want that though. 30th, 9th, and 2nd. If he comes through, he kind of comes through for the price. But then you've got Hall, Akshay, Mitchell, Clanton, all possible guys that can be in the mix, and you just need Jesper Svensson to do anything.
Jeff Feinberg likes Jesper Svensson this week. I think it's because his name is Jesper.
Take him out and put Victor Perez in.
No.
Take him out and put Cam Davis in.
Fine. Enter. No. Not
take him out and put Griot in.
No, I'm going to play Jesper Svensson.
Okay.
If we're going to build it according to what the numbers say, these
yes. I would say that's at least where, again, I prefer that actually, like I just explained. But if you didn't like a guy, I'm saying you could always swap one. But yeah, I agree with that.
Sam asks, are you heavy on the PM wave more than usual? You kind of said no to that.
I play it pretty much every week. Like I talk about this all the time because it just naturally gets you different. And this week is actually really interesting because the entire 9K range plus Keith Mitchell are all in the PM. Cantlay, Bradley, Morikawa, of course, for the TV stuff are all AM PM. Now that could work in their favor with the way the winds moved up and the little bit of rain after that and all this, that, and the other. But my point is, if you want a way to naturally avoid the 10K range, you could build some PM AM lineups for sure. But I don't have any separate angle this week that I'm approaching it from, at least not as of now.
Jason asks, Griot or Norin? I'm not playing either of those guys.
You want me to bust out the ship it, flip it?
Yeah, do it.
You can flip the coin. We'll go Caribou Griot, and we'll go the queen is, who was it? Norin. Flip it to ship it. It is heads. Norin over Griot.
I think if I had to pick between the two, I'd pick the guy at 1/20th the ownership, and that would be Norin.
There you go. Norin's the answer.
All right. What do you got coming up the rest of the week? I got a fun show tomorrow.
What's that? Well, tell me about that first.
What's that?
Tell me about that first.
Oh, we're just going over. We're in the dead zone of sports right now. Now that the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals have ended, although the NBA is trying to keep some traction. So we're going to talk some NBA. Then we're just random stories that are going on in sports that I find intriguing. It's going to be me and Emerson Loiza. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I like that. He's a great dude as well. Awesome Twitter follow, X, whatever you want to call it. But I think those shows are great right now because there is a bit of a lull. Everybody knows it. There's no way to hide it. NHL's over. NBA's over. MLB, people are bored with it sometimes. I'm not. Good night with MLB in the streets last night. But most people don't like it. And then football's not on, so on and so forth. But I like those types of shows. I think it's good. But I've been spending my free time outside of renovations and my headquarters I'm putting together out back, working on something huge that we're going to have at Ship It Nation that I think is going to be truly game-changing versus what the rest of the industry is doing. I got bored, Pat, so Hoop and I came up with a pretty fun plan. We're working on putting it together before football comes back, but it's really going to drive a lot of attention, I think, and we'll definitely going to put our money where our mouth is. But right now, if you want to check out Ship It Nation, go over to the site, get in, try out a month, see what you think. You can always upgrade, downgrade, whatever you want to do based on your thoughts. But most people stick around and end up upgrading, get in the Discord, all that stuff and more. And then DFS Mastermind as well, if you're looking to polish up your game before NFL gets back.
Now, I know you're being coy about this, but I know what this is. It's just going to be home run parlays, right?
Yes, we're heavy in the sports betting streets, as you know. So, how quickly, I'm not going to do this, it doesn't matter, but how quickly do you think I could get to 100K followers if I started doing sports betting parlays and single game shots and giveaways and all kinds of stuff like that just to run it up? What do you think?
I think it would take longer than you think. because that's not necessarily the way to do it. There's like a game within the algorithm that I talked to Sal. He knows all of those.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that do it, but I've seen some crazy turnarounds on that stuff. I just think it's this is like we're doing a mini chat at the end of the show. Probably got to go, but just noting it, like you said, these conversations to me are interesting. Is the sort of value of like a follower for what you, depending on what you do in your business and your entrepreneurship or solopreneurship side of like, there's a value to, like, people go viral all the time and gain a few followers here and there, but it depends on what your actual goal is and what you're trying to do. But for people that are, trying to grow a business and things like that, those aren't always the best followers, because with sports betting content in general, you can get a lot of these, for people that just want picks, I should say, you can get a lot of free picks on X, for example. A ton of people are posting free picks daily that you can try and hook on to somebody and follow them or tail them. But for actual content and betting tools and things like that, it's a little bit trickier business from everything I see from the outside looking in.
I agree. And it's one thing that a lot of these marketing companies don't have, because I deal a lot with advertisers, third-party advertisers, and to them, a number is a number is a number. They would actually do themselves a great service if they could find out a way, or at least hire someone who can make sense of these numbers a little bit. Because I see, let's say I have 80,000 and there's an equivalent 80,000 guy to me who's run the algorithm, built himself up over the past, I don't know, 2 years or something like that. I don't want to say that my 80,000 followers are more valuable, but they are, because these are people that have been with me. I can point to metrics for video, for podcasting, for article clicks, retention rate, click-through rate. Will my 80,000 people actually like buy your advertisement? Will they buy a product that I'm selling? I would say that the answer for me is yes. For that other person, do I know? I would guess the answer is probably no.
Yeah, ultimately it's about converting. That's what they want, right? And so I was talking like email lists. It's like people get paid on CPM, just like on your podcast and things like that. And it's per thousand views or listeners or whatever it is, the medium that you're talking about. But I think it's like interesting. Somebody could have a 20,000 person email list that they never scrub, meaning there's open rates, there's factors to it where the people are looking at it, and they'll have 6,000 people are actually opening it. But somebody else could have a 12,000 or a 13,000 person email list where 7,500 people are consistently opening it, and there's more buy-in and more history and more loyalty and more conversion. It's worth more, but it's not, because they're just going to pay on a standard, and then they wonder why they're not getting any conversions on their buy, right? That's the tricky part.
Yeah, like I have a 26,000 person email list right now. You can go join it for free down in the description. I'll be throwing out my final picks that will include Max Razorman now later on this evening in there. It's always free, but during golf season, the open rate is around like 56%. And then during NFL season, it's around 51%. But there's like I should really just have two separate email lists, but people come, they stay, and they just don't open it during golf season. But when football comes back, they open it. A lot of the golf people don't open the football stuff.
Yeah, sometimes it's a pain in the ass. Like, obviously you can segment your lists and do it that way and boost up say, hey, check out my open rates, because your NFL only list on a smaller NFL list is now boosts up to a much higher percentage that's opening it, et cetera, et cetera. But it's not probably worth it at that point, as long as you're getting decent open rates. Like, 50% plus is phenomenal, but if you're getting, bigger, you're not getting 20 to 30%, you're in good shape. So you can get away with it anyway. But I just think it is interesting that the same goes on X. That's the original point that I brought up, is like, people always are just going after a vanity metric or a number of followers, and it's great, but it's, the slow build is typically always better anyway, because you're building a more loyal fan base, people that are interested in actually learning, going with the value that you're providing, hopefully, and then being able to convert it later on if you are looking to create something or do something. But as I always say too, people don't just give money away in this economy. So unless you're offering something of value, don't expect to get money for it, because there's not many people that are giving away money for free these days, Pat.
No, I'm giving away a driver for free. So if you want that, you can leave your favorite 6K player down in the comment section right now and smash the like while you're here. All right. I'm Pat Mayo. That was